The Galactic Academy was a place of knowledge older than most star empires. Its stone pillars reached high into the sky, carved with symbols from 100 worlds. Inside, in the grand lecture hall, rows upon rows of students gathered, their bodies glittering with scales, feathers, shells, or smooth skin that shimmered under the blue lights. The air buzzed with soft hums, whispers, and the clicking of alien tongues. At the front stood a figure that demanded silence. Elder Virac, a scholar of biology and history, older than anyone in the room, his robes dragged across the floor, stitched with glowing threads. His 3 eyes blinked slowly as he raised his staff. A hush fell. Even the smallest of the students sat still, waiting. "Today," Virac began, his voice deep and rough with age, "we speak of a danger unlike any you have studied. A danger that comes not from weapons nor from war, but from nature itself. From a planet called—" His voice dropped and many leaned forward. "Earth." A ripple went through the room. The word itself carried weight. Earth, the newcomer world. Strange, young and reckless. The planet of humans. Virac tapped his staff and the lights dimmed. Holograms flickered to life in the air above him. Her single image shone, spinning slowly in the darkened hall. A fruit. Round, red, shining like blood under light. Some students hissed, others gasped. One small creature even covered its eye stalks with trembling claws. "This," Virac said, pointing a long finger, "is known by humans as an apple. But in the wider galaxy, it is called the death fruit. A fruit so toxic it poisons blood, melts stomachs, and ends life within minutes." Whispers spread like fire through the hall. Students scribbled in their notes, their limbs twitching with alarm. The hollow screen shifted to show magnified details. Molecules of strange acids, complex chains of chemicals that glowed in red. "You see this compound?" Virac's staff pointed. "Even the smallest trace burns through living tissue. For us, one bite would be enough to collapse the heart. For you," he swept his eyes across the hall, "one lick would destroy your tongues and throats." The students shivered. Some pulled back, as though the hologram itself could leap out and strike them. "During the early years of contact with humans," Virac continued, "there were accidents. Traders who thought the fruit was harmless decoration, scholars who tasted its sweet smell, soldiers who dared each other in foolish bravery." His eyes narrowed. None survived. The death fruit left corpses behind, lifeless and twisted. The hollow screen changed again. This time the hall was filled with grim images. Medical scans of alien organs blackened and shriveled, tissues corroded beyond repair. Several students groaned or turned their faces away. "Mark this lesson well," Virac said. His voice boomed now, filling every shadow. "The death fruit is not food. It is not gift. It is nature's weapon, and it grows freely on Earth's soil." The hall was silent, heavy with fear. At the back, however, one figure sat apart, Alex. He was the only human in the academy, part of a small exchange program allowed after years of debate. To many, he was a curiosity. To others, a danger. His brown hair fell across his forehead as he leaned back in his seat, half bored, half amused by the lesson. He had heard the whispers about humans before, reckless, dangerous, too bold to fear what others did. As the hologram of the blood-red apple spun above the scholar, Alex reached into his bag. His hand closed around something round and smooth. He pulled it free slowly, almost lazily. A real apple. The skin shone under the pale lights, brighter, fresher, more alive than the hologram. No one noticed at first. The alien students were too busy staring at the screen, shivering under Virac's booming voice. The lecture carried on, talk of poison, of chemicals, of doom. But then a small sound broke the silence. Crunch. It was quiet but sharp. Heads turned. Ears twitched. Eyes widened. In the very last row, the human sat with his feet stretched out, calmly holding the red fruit in his hand. He had bitten into it. Juice ran down his fingers. He chewed slowly, carelessly, as though nothing were strange. Gasps broke through the hall. One student screeched and pointed with a trembling claw. Another stumbled backward, knocking over their datapad. Whispers turned into panicked cries. He is eating it! The death fruit! He touches it! He will die! He is dying!" But Alex did not die. He simply chewed, swallowed, and raised the apple again. His expression was calm, almost amused, as though he enjoyed being the center of their terror. Elder Virac's eyes snapped toward him. The scholar froze, his voice caught in his throat. He stared at the human, at the apple, at the impossible sight. Alex took another slow bite. Crunch. The sound echoed through the hall. Louder now, louder than the whispers, louder than the rising panic. The alien students' skin patterns flared with warning colors. Some leapt from their seats. A few fainted. The smell of the fruit drifted into the air, sweet, crisp, sharp, and the aliens nearest to Alex covered their mouths, gagging, afraid the scent alone might kill them. Yet Alex sat there, calm, quiet, chewing. In that moment, the lecture on the death fruit no longer belonged to Elder Virac. It belonged to the human in the back row, who defied everything the galaxy thought it knew. The silence grew heavier. Eyes stared at Alex, wide with horror, wide with awe, and the human, still chewing, leaned back and said softly, almost to himself, "Good apple!" The hall erupted into chaos. The grand lecture hall shook with noise. Chairs scraped, datapads clattered to the floor, and alien voices rose in panic. The calm order of a classroom had exploded into chaos. Some students screamed in terror, rushing toward the exits. Others pressed their hands over their breathing holes, afraid the very air might be poisoned by the human's act. A few froze in their seats, trembling, unable to believe what they were seeing. The human sat still among them all. Alex leaned back in his chair, holding the bright red apple in one hand. He chewed lazily as though nothing unusual was happening. The juice glistened on his lips and fingers, reflecting the blue lights above. Elder Virac slammed his staff against the floor. The booming sound silenced some of the cries, but fear still hung thick in the air. His three eyes locked on the human, unblinking, filled with both fury and disbelief. "Human," Virac's voice cracked like thunder. "Drop it, drop that cursed fruit at once." But Alex only shrugged and took another bite. Crunch. The sound echoed, sharp and final. It cut through the room like a blade. Students nearest to him recoiled. One tall insectoid creature stumbled back so fast, it crashed into the row behind it. Another fainted outright, its frills stiff with shock. "He is mad," a scaled student shrieked, pointing a trembling claw. "He is killing himself." "No," another whispered, eyes wide. "He is already dead. The poison will tear through his flesh any moment now." But Alex did not fall. He did not choke or scream or collapse. He swallowed and gave a small sigh, almost of pleasure. "Sweet," he muttered under his breath. The whispers grew into a storm. How can he still breathe? He touched it with bare skin. Why is his hand not melting? His mouth should be gone already. One young alien, shivering in his seat, asked the question no one wanted to say out loud. What if the fruit is not poison to them? The words struck the hall like a blow. Silence fell again, heavy and suffocating. Every gaze turned back toward Alex. He seemed completely at ease. He tilted the apple in his hand, studying its red skin, then smiled faintly. "Back home we eat these every day," he said, his voice casual. "Kids chew them for snacks at school. Soldiers pack them for rations. Families plant trees in their gardens. It's just an apple." The silence broke into shouts of denial. "Lies! Impossible! No creature can survive that poison." Elder Virac's frills flared wide, his staff shaking with rage. "You dare mock this academy with such trickery?" he roared. "You sit there chewing death itself, and you expect us to believe it is nothing?" Alex leaned back further, folding one leg over the other. He took his time, chewing slowly, swallowing, and raising the fruit again for another bite. Crunch, this time the sound wasn't met with screams. Instead it was met with something stranger. Fear, yes, but mixed now with fascination. The alien students leaned forward, drawn against their will to watch the impossible unfold. Their minds could not accept it, yet their eyes could not look away. One brave student, its body covered in pale fur, raised a trembling hand. "Human, does it not burn you?" Alex glanced at him, then shook his head. "Not at all. Tastes good." He held the apple out slightly, as if offering it. "Want a bite?" The furred alien yelped and recoiled, nearly tripping over its own chair. The class gasped in unison. Some hissed at Alex's casual cruelty, while others simply stared, frozen in disbelief. Virac slammed his staff again. "Enough!" His voice shook, not only with anger but with something else, fear. "Bring in the guards. This madness ends now." The heavy doors at the side of the hall opened. 4 academy guards stormed in, armed with stun rifles. Their eyes locked on Alex and the fruit in his hand. "Seize the human," Virak ordered. The guards advanced cautiously, their weapons raised. The alien students pulled back, clearing the aisles. Their hearts pounded as they waited for the moment when the human would finally drop, when the poison would take him. But Alex only smiled. He raised the apple again, took a slow bite and chewed as the guards surrounded him. "Crunch." "Sir," one of the guards said, his voice uneasy. "He is still alive. I can see that," Virak snapped. The guards surrounded Alex, rifles raised, their glowing muzzles trained on his chest. The hall was still except for the faint hum of their weapons. Hundreds of alien students leaned forward in fear, their eyes wide, their frills, feathers, or antennae twitching nervously. Alex sat relaxed in his chair, legs crossed, half-eaten apple in hand. His face showed no fear, no concern, only calm boredom, as though he were waiting for a train instead of staring down weapons. "Drop the fruit." One guard barked, his voice sharp with panic. Alex slowly looked up, then down at the apple, then back at the guard. He raised an eyebrow. "Why would I drop it? It's just an apple," murmurs broke out in the crowd. Some aliens hissed in disbelief. Others shook their heads violently, their skin flashing colors of fear. Elder Virak stepped forward, slamming his staff against the ground. His voice was hard, but beneath it there was a tremor. "Do not play games with us, human. That fruit is death. No being can survive its venom. You mock this academy and endanger every life in this room." Alex shrugged, unfazed. He raised the apple and took another slow, deliberate bite. Crunch. The sound echoed like a hammer on stone. Several students whimpered. One even fainted again, sliding under their chair. The guards flinched but did not fire. Alex chewed, swallowed, and leaned back casually. "It's not venom. It's food. My kind eats these every day." "Honestly?" He smirked faintly. "This one's a little underripe, but still good." The silence after those words was heavy, as though the entire hall held its breath. Finally, one brave alien student spoke, his voice trembling. "Impossible. The scans. The scans prove it. The fruit is toxic beyond measure. Every molecule is poison." Alex leaned forward slightly, resting the apple against his knee. "To you," he said calmly. "To humans, it's nothing. Our bodies are built for this. What you call poison is just breakfast to us." Gasps spread like fire. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. Their weapons dipped slightly, uncertain. Virak's three eyes narrowed, his voice low and dangerous. "You lie. You cannot be what you claim." Alex grinned, tilting his head. "Then test me." The challenge hung in the air. The students muttered among themselves, some urging the scholar to order scans, others whispering in fear of what they might discover. Virak's frills stiffened. He raised a hand, signaling the guards to hold their positions. "Very well. We shall test." A medical drone was summoned, buzzing into the hall with cold precision. Its lenses glowed as it hovered over Alex, scanners unfolding like blades. The crowd leaned forward, every heart pounding. "Scan the human," Virak ordered. "Measure his blood, his organs, his breath." The drone emitted beams of light that passed over Alex's body. Numbers and graphs filled the hollow screens. Lines of alien script scrolled fast, glowing red with warnings. Toxic levels detected. Life signs normal. Poison present in bloodstream. No damage to organs. The room erupted in noise again. "How?" "It cannot be." "He should be dead." Alex sat still as the drone continued its scan. His heartbeat steady. His breathing normal. The apple in his hand still bright and red. Elder Virak stared at the results. His lips curled downward, his voice a low growl. "This is impossible. Every law of biology says you should be dead." Alex leaned back, smirking. "Maybe your laws don't apply to us," the crowd murmured, unsettled. The students who had mocked humans as weak now looked on with wide eyes, their fear mixing with something new, respect, maybe even awe. One insectoid student clicked nervously, its antennae twitching. "Human, how many of these death fruits can you eat?" Alex raised the apple and shrugged. "As many as I want." He reached into his bag and pulled out another apple, holding it up casually. "Want to see?" A collective gasp ran through the hall. "No!" several shouted at once. "Do not! You will bring doom upon us all." But Alex only grinned, turning the apple in his hand like a magician with a coin. He bit into it without hesitation. Crunch. The sound filled the hall again, louder than the whispers. He chewed, swallowed, and spoke through the silence. Still good. The guards lowered their rifles completely now. They exchanged worried looks, but none dared touch him. The students' fear shifted into something deeper, something heavier. They began to whisper to one another, their voices filled with wonder. If humans can eat death, what else can they survive? Are they immune to all poison? Elder Virac's frills fluttered nervously. His staff shook in his grip. His mind raced. He had studied biology his entire life, and yet in one moment, the human had shattered everything he thought he knew. You? His voice cracked, then steadied. You are no ordinary species. Alex finished his bite, wiped his hand on his sleeve, and leaned forward with a calm smile. We're just human. You think Earth is gentle, but it's not. Our world is full of things that try to kill us. Storms, predators, diseases, plants like this. We survived them all. We learned to live with them. That's why we're here. The students shivered. For the first time, many of them realized what kind of world humans must have come from. One that forged them in constant struggle. One that made death itself into something they could shrug off. Virac lowered his staff slowly, his 3 eyes never leaving Alex. His voice was quiet, almost reverent now. Perhaps we have misjudged your kind. Alex took one last bite of his apple, letting the crunch echo again. He smiled faintly as the students watched in silence. In that moment, he no longer looked like a simple exchange student. He looked like something more, something that stood apart from the rest of the galaxy. The human who ate death and lived. The grand lecture hall no longer felt like a classroom. It felt like a trial. The guards still stood around Alex, though their weapons hung loosely now, pointed at the floor instead of at him. The students filled the seats in tense silence, their eyes locked on the human who had defied death itself. Elder Virac's frills quivered as he struggled to steady his voice. This cannot be dismissed, Virac declared, his staff shaking in his hand. We will test the human. Only then shall we know the truth. The words sent another ripple of whispers through the hall. Test him how? Would he die before their eyes, or prove once more that he lived where no one else could? Alex leaned back in his chair, chewing the last of his second apple. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes glittered with amusement. Go ahead, he said softly. Run your tests. I've got nothing to hide. The medical drone hovered closer, its lenses glowing brighter. Panels on its sides opened, revealing a set of instruments, scanners, injectors, and containers. Elder Virac gestured. Begin. The drone extended a thin needle and pricked Alex's arm. The screens lit up with new readings. Toxin levels, critical human vital signs, stable heart rate, normal blood pressure, normal, the crowd gasped. A feathered student cried out, His blood swims with poison. How can he live? Alex glanced at the screen, then back at the crowd. That's just lunch, he said dryly. The drone beeped again and released a spray of gas into a small chamber. It collected a sample of Alex's breath. The analysis returned instantly. Breath contains toxic trace elements risk level for non-humans, lethal risk level for humans, none. The silence grew heavy, thicker than before. Many of the students shuddered at the thought. The human's very breath could be poisonous to them. One insectoid student whispered, They carry death inside them. Elder Virac's frills drooped, but his voice pressed on. Test further. The drone obeyed. It took a drop of Alex's saliva and placed it against alien tissue samples inside a containment pod. The tissue blackened and dissolved instantly, corroded as if touched by acid. The students recoiled in horror, but Alex simply smirked and took another bite from his apple. Crunch. The noise sent a chill through the hall. How? Virac's voice faltered. He steadied himself. How do you survive, human? Why does death itself not touch you? Alex swallowed, then leaned forward, resting the half-eaten fruit on the desk. His tone was calm, but every word carried weight. Because Earth built us this way. Everything on our planet tries to kill us. Our plants, our animals, even the air sometimes. You think this fruit is poison? On Earth, it's one of the safest things we can eat. The hall erupted with shocked whispers. He jests. No, he speaks the truth. I have read the reports. Their world is chaos, chaos, yet they thrive in it. The drone beeped again, interrupting the noise. Its final report glowed across the holoscreens. Human biology, extreme resistance to toxins, immune system. Hyperadaptive conclusion, humans can survive poisons fatal to most species elder. Virak froze as the words blazed before the class. His staff lowered, his eyes narrowing as he stared at the human. The students sat stunned, their fear shifting slowly into awe. They whispered now, not in panic but in something else, reverence. One brave alien, small and scaled, raised a claw. Human, if you can survive poison so easily, what else can you endure? Alex tilted his head. For a moment he said nothing, letting the silence grow. Then he smiled faintly. You'd be surprised. The tension in the room thickened again, curiosity battling fear. Test further. One student cried. Yes, test him more. Another agreed. We must know their limits. Virak hesitated. His frills trembled with unease, but he could not stop now. The academy demanded answers. Very well, he said grimly. Bring the toxins. The guards stiffened but obeyed. They returned moments later with sealed vials glowing faintly in their cases. Liquids that shimmered with deadly light, known across the galaxy for their lethality. The grand lecture hall was silent. Not the silence of order, but the heavy silence of fear and realization. The holoscreen still displayed the drone's report in glowing letters. Humans can survive poisons fatal to most species. The words burned into the minds of every alien present. Students shifted nervously in their seats, their frills, feathers, and antennae twitching with unease. Guards stood frozen, gripping their weapons not in readiness but in uncertainty. And at the center of it all, Alex sat calmly, his chair tilted back, arms folded across his chest. His eyes moved slowly across the room, meeting gaze after gaze. He looked less like a student and more like a predator, surrounded by prey. Elder Virak's staff rested against the floor, his frills drooping in thought. His three eyes flicked between the human and the terrified faces of his students. For decades he had taught that humans were reckless, fragile, untested. Now before his very eyes, one human had destroyed that lesson with nothing more than a piece of fruit. At last Virak's voice broke the silence, though it shook with doubt. Perhaps we have been wrong. The words sent a ripple through the hall. A feathered student raised a trembling wing. Master, if the death fruit is food to them, what else from their world might be harmless to them yet deadly to us? Another, covered in shimmering scales, added quickly. Their water carries countless organisms. Their air holds spores and dust that would choke our lungs. Even their sun burns harsher than most. How can they live in such conditions? The whispers grew louder, building like a storm. Maybe the humans are not fragile at all. Maybe they are stronger than us. What if their whole planet is like the death fruit? What kills us only feeds them. Alex tilted his head, listening with faint amusement. He let them murmur for a while before speaking. His voice was steady, but it carried across the room like a blade through fog. You think the apple is strange? On Earth, it's normal. Our world is full of poisons. Some kill, some don't. But we learned long ago to adapt, to survive. That's what humans do best. The students fell quiet again, drawn to his words. He leaned forward, his tone harder now. You grow up fearing poison. We grow up eating it. You build walls against storms. We walk through them. You hide from predators. We hunt them. Earth made us this way. Every day is a test. If we weren't strong, we wouldn't be here. His words sank deep into every listener. Even the guards lowered their eyes, unsettled. One insectoid student clicked nervously, struggling to form words. So, the stories of Earth. The tales of storms, volcanoes, endless seas, beasts with teeth larger than our bodies. They are true. Alex smirked faintly. Every one of them. A sharp gasp broke from a young alien who clutched its notes tightly. Then your kind are not just survivors, you are forged by chaos itself. Elder Virak's frills twitched. His voice was low, thoughtful now. A planet where death is ordinary, where life thrives in poison, fire, and storm. Perhaps that is why the humans see danger differently than we do. He looked at Alex with all three eyes. You are not fearless, are you? You simply fear less. Alex met his gaze calmly. Exactly, the students exchanged looks. Their fear of the humans shifted little by little into something else, respect, even awe. They began to see Alex not as a reckless fool, but as living proof that humanity was different. Not weaker, not fragile. but something the galaxy had never truly understood. One brave, feathered student raised a trembling wing again. Human, what happens if someone uses poison against you in war? Alex's smile widened slightly, though his eyes were cold. Then they'll waste their time. The hall froze at the weight of that answer. The thought struck everyone at once. The weapons they feared most, poisons, gases, toxins, might mean nothing to humans. And if that were true, what else could humanity endure? The whispers started again, but this time they were not whispers of fear. They were whispers of realization. They could fight in places we cannot. They could survive where we would die. They could be unstoppable. Elder Virak raised his staff again, silencing the hall. His voice carried not anger this time, but something closer to respect. Remember this, students. What we call the death fruit, humans call food. What we call poison, they call life. What we see as impossible is ordinary to them. His frills lowered as he turned his gaze toward Alex. This is the truth about humans. They are not weak. They are not reckless. They are children of a world that kills, yet they live. And in their survival, they carry a strength the galaxy has yet to measure. Alex leaned back, arms crossed again, and gave the faintest nod. He didn't need to add anything. The truth had already been spoken. The students sat in silence, their hearts pounding. The lecture they had expected, a simple warning about a deadly fruit, had become something else entirely. It was no longer about a plant. It was about a species, a revelation. The death fruit was not a curse. It was a symbol, and the aliens of the Academy would never look at humans the same way again. The lecture hall no longer felt like a classroom. It felt like a battlefield after the fighting had stopped, smoke still in the air, silence heavy, and everyone struggling to understand what had just happened. The hollow screen slowly dimmed, but the words remained burned into every alien mind. Humans endure what others fear. No one dared move at first. Dozens of eyes, compound and singular, kept darting toward Alex. The human still sat in his seat, one leg crossed over the other, an apple core resting on his desk. He had chewed the last bite calmly, as though nothing about this day was unusual, but for everyone else in the hall everything had changed. At last, one of the guards shifted uncomfortably. His claws clicked against his weapon, but not in hostility. He was uneasy, as if standing near a creature too unpredictable to control. The scaled student who had spoken earlier finally found her courage. She leaned forward, her voice trembling. "Human, you spoke of storms, poisons, predators, but if your world is truly so cruel, then how can any of you survive long enough to build ships and leave it?" Alex turned his gaze toward her. His voice was steady, low, and edged with something primal. "Because we didn't have a choice. On Earth, the weak die. The strong carry on. Every human alive is the child of survivors. It's been that way for thousands of years." The answer rippled through the room. Students looked at each other, antennae twitching, wings shifting, fins flaring. The realization hit them hard. Humanity's strength wasn't just luck. It was heritage. Another student, smaller and timid, raised a hand. "So, danger shaped you. It made you into this?" Alex shrugged, his expression unreadable. "It didn't make us fearless. It made us stubborn. We don't give up, even when we should." The honesty in his words unsettled the students more than if he had boasted. So he wasn't bragging. He was describing a truth so ordinary to him, yet so extraordinary to them. Elder Virak tapped his staff against the floor, the sound echoing like a drumbeat. "Do you all understand now? We feared the death fruit because it kills us, but to them it nourishes. We see danger where they see nothing at all. What we call poison, they call breakfast." A nervous laugh escaped one of the feathered students, though it carried no mockery. It was the kind of laugh that came from awe, from realizing just how small your view of the universe had been. But Elder Virak was not finished. His frills tightened as his gaze swept the hall. "This lesson is no longer about a fruit. It is about the nature of life itself. The humans are not reckless children of a dangerous world. They are the product of it. They are what happens when life refuses to yield." The hall fell into silence again. Every word weighed heavy, reshaping what they had once believed. At that moment, a message came through the Academy's central comm system. A metallic voice rang from the wall speakers. "Attention, all faculty and students. Reports have confirmed. The human homeworld contains the highest number of environmental hazards in the known galaxy. Toxic plants, venomous animals, unstable weather systems. Current survival index rating, uninhabitable for 96% of galactic species. Gasps echoed across the hall. The facts left no room for doubt. Earth itself was the proof, and there, sitting casually with an apple core in hand, was its representative. The fear in the room began to shift. Not vanish. Fear never vanished, but transform. It grew into something deeper, something older. Respect. One insectoid student lowered his head, a gesture of reverence among his kind. Another feathered student folded her wings tightly, signaling submission. The realization was spreading. Humans were not prey. They were something else entirely. Alex noticed the change. His lips twitched into the faintest smile, but he said nothing. He let the silence speak for him. It was Elder Virak who broke it at last. His voice carried not just authority, but a strange warmth now. Class dismissed. Remember what you have learned here today. The galaxy will not remain the same after this truth is known. The students rose slowly, their eyes never leaving Alex. Some walked with trembling limbs, others with heads bowed, but none looked at him the way they had when the lecture began. As the hall emptied, a few brave ones lingered. One scaled student approached Alex cautiously. "Human, may I see the fruit again?" Alex reached into his bag, pulled out another apple and tossed it lightly. The student fumbled, nearly dropping it before staring at it as though holding a weapon. "Careful," Alex said with a grin. "That thing might kill you." News traveled faster than ships. By the time the human exchange student, Alex, left the Galactic Academy that night, the story of the death fruit had already begun spreading through the station's comnet like fire through dry grass. What had started as a classroom lecture was now whispered across corridors, markets and council chambers. A human ate the death fruit. He lived. He smiled while doing it. For centuries, alien scholars had repeated the same warning. Earth was cursed. Its plants, animals, and storms were lethal. No species could survive there without constant shielding. Yet humanity had not only survived, it had thrived. The Academy students, shaken by what they had seen, could not keep quiet. They told their peers who told others, until the whispers became a tide. Soon entire lecture halls buzzed with the story. The death fruit became a symbol, a word passed in hushed tones: humans, the poison eaters. In the halls of power, the news caused more than whispers. It caused fear. On the Council of Systems, representatives of a dozen species debated late into the cycle. The insectoid core clicked angrily, their mandibles clattering. If this story is true, then the humans cannot be trusted. A species that turns death into nourishment is a species that cannot be contained. A feathered ambassador countered with unease in her voice. Or perhaps they are simply different. Resilient, not dangerous. The core slammed a claw against the table. Resilience is danger. If poison is food to them, what weapon is left against them? Think. What we fear, they ignore. What kills us strengthens them. The chamber fell into silence. Every representative felt the same thought creep into their mind, though none dared say it aloud. If humans could endure what others could not, could they also fight where others could not? Meanwhile, back at the academy, Alex walked the quiet halls with a calm stride. But behind his calm eyes, he knew the truth. He had not just bitten into an apple. He had bitten into the galaxy's ignorance, and now everything had changed. As he passed by a reflective window, he caught his own faint smirk. He hadn't come here to scare anyone. But humans were always underestimated, and sometimes a little reminder was necessary. Behind him, footsteps echoed. Elder Virak approached, leaning heavily on his staff. His frills twitched with unease, but there was respect in his gaze now. "You have altered more than a lesson today, human," the elder said softly. "The galaxy will not look at your kind the same way again." Alex tilted his head. "Good, maybe it's about time." The elder studied him for a long moment, then lowered his gaze. "I have taught for 300 cycles, but I have never feared my own words until today. When I spoke of the death fruit, I thought I was warning students of danger. Instead, I revealed a greater danger we never understood." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Danger?" The elder's voice was quiet, heavy. "Danger not in your world, but in you, humanity itself. What else have we misjudged? For the first time, Alex let his smile fade. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only Virak could hear. You've only seen the beginning. Earth made us tough, but what really makes us dangerous isn't what we can eat or what we can survive. It's what we do when someone tries to break us. We don't stop. Elder Virak's frills stiffened. His staff trembled slightly in his grip. He said nothing. He didn't need to. The truth was already clear. The next day, the story reached the outer colonies. By the third, traders were carrying it across star lanes. By the seventh, war councils in distant systems were discussing humans as if they were predators, newly discovered in their midst. Some laughed nervously, calling it exaggeration. Some dismissed it, claiming the students were tricked, but most felt a deep unease. For when they closed their eyes, they pictured it clearly. A human sitting casually in a classroom, eating death as if it were nothing. And so the whispers grew. If poison is food to them, what weapon could stop them? They are not prey. They are something else. The name Death Fruit became a symbol across the galaxy. It was no longer just a warning about Earth's apples. It was a reminder of what humanity truly was, survivors of a world that should have killed them, but instead shaped them into something terrifying. On the Academy's rooftop garden, Alex bit into another apple, gazing out at the stars. Ships glided like silver insects across the black sky. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of species that thought they understood strength. He chewed slowly, savoring the fruit, and muttered to himself, "Let them whisper," because whispers spread, and whispers could change the galaxy. And somewhere deep down, Alex knew the truth. The death fruit was just the beginning.